Jupiter's Legacy is based on the Mark Millar comic book of the same name, and now there's a new superhero show streaming on Netflix, so let's talk about it. The first generation of superheroes has kept the world safe for nearly a century, but now their children must live up to their legacy in an epic drama that spans decades and navigates the dynamics of family, power, and loyalty. But before we dive into this review, and it will be spoiler free by the way, why don't you let me know your thoughts on Jupiter's Legacy if you're excited for the show, if you already binged the show as you're watching this, if you've read the comic book, throw it all in the comments below, start the conversation, it's the most important part. And if you're new to the channel, why don't you consider clicking the subscribe button? It does wonders to get my content out there, and you'll always be aware of whenever I upload new reviews or trailer reactions or just more comic book and geeky goodness. So I am always up for more superhero content, and I was extremely excited for this show. I really love how it tackles the dynamics of family and inheriting power and inheriting legacy and superheroes with family issues. That is one of the focal points of the show throughout, and I really love how it tackles it. How fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, fathers and daughters see things in a different way, and this is just parents trying to prepare their children for the world and to inherit the world, but they do it in this guise of a superhero show, and I think those dynamics are the things that this show tackles the best. There's a lot of interesting themes, and I think those dynamics are what this show tackles the best. There's a lot of interesting themes that are approached and tackled throughout the show, as well as interesting dynamics. And throughout the show, there's a lot of friction between our main character, the Utopian, played by Josh Duhamel, and his son, Paragon, played by Andrew Horton. Really great performances from both of them, and I really like how the show is building upon the friction being generated by these two characters, but it also presents both sides. Throughout the show, you see kind of everyone's perspective on this, not only on the younger generation of heroes who are about to become like the new Union of Justice, which is basically this show's version of Justice League, but you also see the old guys. What do they think? Do they think these new kids are prepared? And I really like that. It gives the show a lot of gravitas, and again, a lot of relatable themes. But the show also goes back in time to the 1920s. And we see how this first generation, how these 6 people got their powers in the first place. And there's a lot of intrigue going on there, a lot of mystery that I really enjoyed for the most part. We'll get to that in a bit. And I think the show, surprisingly but wisely, is very small. This first season is basically a story that is propelled by this one incident that leaves you with a cliffhanger on the first episode, and then throughout the season and until the end of the season, you explore that one incident. And because of that, the show does not diverge too much from its main story, and it's focused on this one thing, and even side stories with the daughter of the Utopian and Lady Liberty, Chloe, even that eventually connects in a very seamless way to our main story. So the show has this one focus, this one direction that really works in its favor. But of course, being a superhero show, it also has a lot of action sequences, really fun action sequences throughout. The exact type of superhero action that you want. It's exhilarating, it's fun, it feels big, it feels grandiose, everyone has different looking powers, everyone has really interesting powers that they use in a visually pleasing way. But by far the best characters in this show are Walter, who plays Brainwave. He's the brother of the Utopian, and the Utopian's daughter, Chloe. These are the two most complex, most intriguing characters throughout the show, because Walter is very much like the voice of reason. He's the second in command to the Utopian, and I think what he offers the show is that very necessary different perspective, a perspective that defies the one from our lead, from our main character, but we see the reason in that. We see those points being presented, and they are good points, and I think it's always fascinating when, instead of focusing on the perspective of the main character and try to make us root for him, we also see the other side of things. Chloe, however, is a broken character. She is absolutely unlikable. She does mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, but what I like is that it shows us again that other perspective, someone who is not enchanted with this superhero life, someone who takes out the embellishment, the glamour, the grandiosity out of being a superhero and shows us really the issues that can come from that, real issues, family issues that people can kind of relate to. And I think Elena Kampouris gives a phenomenal performance, my favorite in the entire show, and all these elements, all these intriguing characters that present a very different perspective from our lead actually feed into that theme that runs throughout the season, which is the code. Utopian lives by a code where you don't kill, very much like Batman in a sense, and you try to explore that theme throughout in a very interesting ways. Again, hearing all of these perspectives, what do all the superheroes think? Do they all agree with the Utopian? Do they all disagree? And we see again all those sides, all that intrigue and mystery that runs throughout, and which side will eventually prevail. Which unfortunately leads me into my issues, because this show has such promise, has such interesting concepts, that it drags them on at points too much. The flashbacks are such an intriguing story at first, and you do want to see how these people got their powers, and it runs throughout the entire 8-episode season. It's not until episode 7 that we see how they got their powers, and these flashbacks going back and forth in time and jumping back to the 1920s and then to the present and back and forth could have been dumbed down to end in like episode 4, maybe 5, because there's a lot of intrigue at a certain point that is lost there, because you know they're gonna get their powers. It's just a matter of filling in the little details here and there and answer a few missing questions, but you know they're going to survive everything, you know they're going to get their powers, you know they're going to be successful, and this drags down the show immensely. Whereas the present storyline is very focused, has this one direction. To fulfill those 8 episodes, you had to go back to the flashbacks, otherwise the show could have been done in like 5 episodes maybe. In fairness, the flashbacks build on the relationships of certain characters and offer a lot of character development, but then you come to the present, you're getting that character development all the same, with much more interesting dynamics with the old heroes and the new generation, and surrounding this mystery that they uncover on the first episode. There's also a big mystery surrounding Skyfox, played by Matt Lanter, someone who you don't see at all in the present, and how he connects to certain characters is interesting, but the answers that were given about him and about the main mystery of the series is revealed in an absolutely convoluted way, where it answers one question but it raises like 10 others that you are given no answer to. So it's an interesting concept, it's an interesting decision, a good direction for the show to go in, but it's baffling in terms of execution. It leaves you on a bittersweet note where you're actually satisfied you found out about this one main mystery, but then there are a lot of other lingering questions that you're not satisfied with because they completely ignore in answering you to those questions. There is a lot of fun to be had with Jupiter's Legacy, but there are so many frustrating things about it, from the way they tell the story in a dragged down manner to justify 8 episodes, visual effects, the action, the characters, all of that is well constructed, but the storytelling is really damaged, and oh my god, the makeup in this show is not good. Like, I'm sorry, some wigs look really good, others look awful. The makeup in general to make some characters look old is just god-awful. It's still a show that has so many interesting foundations and it explores so many interesting themes. I want to see where they take it in the future, but it needs to focus a little more on justifying its runtime and its episodes and not detach itself from what it is exploring throughout the season right at the end. I'm giving Jupiter's Legacy a B-. So those are my thoughts on Jupiter's Legacy. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. Let me know your thoughts on it. Again, if you've read the comic, if the comic is better, if you're excited, if you love the show, if you hated the show, all opinions are valid. So start the conversation in the comments below. And again, if you've watched the video this far but still haven't subscribed, consider clicking it. Again, you do wonders for the channel, for my content, and you'll always be aware of whenever there's a new review or trailer reaction around. Thank you so much once more. I'll see you very soon for more reviews. And so until then, love each other. And love the movies.